Namo Bhagavate Ramakrishna. So our Rauji had an interesting question while we were taking tea. That is, why didn't Swami Vivekananda write something about Sri Ramakrishna? Aside from these hymns, why didn't he write a life of Sri Ramakrishna, or why didn't he write some tract on Sri Ramakrishna? Well, he did write these hymns, and he wrote also an important text called Hindu Dharma and Sri Ramakrishna, which is a kind of aphoristic text also describing Sri Ramakrishna's advent. It's a short text, but probably many of you have read that incident when Girish Ghosh asked Sri Ramakrishna, why don't you write a life of... Girish Ghosh asked Swami Vivekananda, what did I say? Oh, he asked Swami Vivekananda, why don't you write a life of the master? Why don't you write the life of the master? You're the one who has understood him best. Shouldn't you be the one to write the life? And he said, he used to call him GC, I think. GC, ask me to dry up the ocean. Ask me to pulverize the mountains into dust. I will do that. But don't ask me to write a life of Sri Ramakrishna. It seems that the more he understood of Sri Ramakrishna, the less he felt he actually understood him. The more he understood of Sri Ramakrishna, the more he felt he was beyond comprehension. It was not possible for him. So that's why I think he turned to poetry in order to give a glimpse of who Ramakrishna is. And this text, Hindu Dharma and Ramakrishna, which is, as I mentioned, quite aphoristic. It's Bengali, and it's been translated a couple of different times, and it's a little bit difficult to understand it. You almost have to go to the Bengali, and with the help of Sanskrit and Bengali and the translations, that's something we could work on at some future time. But he also said he was afraid that in striving to make an image of Shiva, he would end up making the image of a monkey only. That idea, that's I guess a common saying. People mold an image, maybe trying to make a murti to worship of Shiva, but then it ends up looking like a monkey. Then that's no fun. So that may be why he intuited the greatness of Sri Ramakrishna. He didn't feel fit, strangely, didn't feel fit to actually write about him. Right. He didn't want to preach personalities. He wanted to preach principles. And that was also the case with Kali worship. He was a staunch devotee of Mother Kali. He felt that actually Mother Kali is guiding him in everything he does. But he wouldn't preach Kali. He would preach only principles which are applicable to the whole world, to everybody in whatever religion they follow. Because his aim was not to convert everybody to be Vedantists, to make the whole world Hindu. His aim was to lift up all of humanity, make a Christian a better Christian, make a Muslim a better Muslim, make a Jew a better Jew, make a Baha'i a better Baha'i, and of course make a Hindu a better Hindu. And the teachings of the harmony of religions, the principle of divinity of who we really are, the divinity of the soul, these are the principles he preached, absolutely. Raji, another question?
Swamiji, when we talk about Sri Ramakrishna and Vivekananda and Mother Kali, we use the terms interchangeably between Mother Kali and Brahman we're talking about. The question is, in Advaita philosophy, both are the same, isn't it? There are no two, there is only one. If Mother Kali is the ultimate, it is same as what Sri Ramakrishna was referring to. But in the preachings and conversations, we say, yeah, Mother Kali, Mother Kali. Why we do that?
Because we're devotees. We're not jnanis, I think. Because so long as we feel ourselves to be separate from each other and from Brahman, so long that Mother Kali is equally real and separate.
Why? Why separate and same? Isn't it a contradiction there?
It's a question of our standpoint. When I am merged in samadhi and I understand that there is only the one non-dual reality, then where am I even? The salt doll has gone to measure the depth of the ocean and melted away. No one is left to tell the depth of the ocean. There is no question of Ma Kali or of Brahman or of anything else. It is just Satchidananda. Shivoham,
Right.
Shivoham.
When we reach Satchidananda, then we don't come back and say Mother Kali, but we are.
But Sri Ramakrishna did, because he was a Vijnani. He would say that the Vijnani he climbs the steps to the roof and he rejects each step. He says, this is not the roof. Next step, I have not yet reached the roof. Another step, not the roof. Yet another step, not the roof. Finally, he reaches the roof. He says, this is the roof. But the roof is made of what? Brick, lime, and brick dust. Same as the steps. Then he comes back down and he sees that all is filled with God. All is filled with consciousness. This whole world is a manifestation of the divine. Every being is the divine shining. That's the state of Vijnana. Sri Ramakrishna said.
Beyond that Vijnana, there is a Prajnana, it's the higher level.
Not in Sri Ramakrishna's teachings. For Sri Ramakrishna, Vijnana is the state, the fully illumined state, where one can go back and forth between the two posts, as it were, of being immersed in non-dual reality and seeing this world as a manifestation of divine. Now, this is a great conversation, but if we're going to finish the hymn, we better come back to verse number 5. All right, let's come to verse number 5. Bhanjana, dukkha ganjana, karunaghana, karma kathor. Bhanjana, the breaker. We had khaṇḍana, bhanjana is similar meaning. Also the breaker of the dukkha ganjana, that mass of misery. We tend to, at least I tend to, emphasize the joy of spiritual life, and that one can taste one can live a reasonably happy life if it is a life that is fully dedicated to the divine. But let's face it, actually, in life, there's a lot of suffering. And for millions of people in this world, billions of people in this world, life is tremendous suffering. We in America, most of us, at least the people in this room, we're surely not suffering from want of food. But there are millions, perhaps billions of people in the world who don't get enough to eat. That's terrible suffering. There are millions of people who are living under threat of death in wars. That's a terrible suffering, the kind of suffering that day and night, this tremendous strain of feeling like, I don't know if my life may end at any moment by a bullet or a bomb. Tremendous suffering. So this world can be a place of tremendous pain. And this was Buddha's insight, of course, that his first noble truth, the truth of dukkham, that there is suffering, there is misery. And more than that, yes, there's this kind of tremendous and immediate physical and mental suffering. More than that, for all of us, there's a kind of dissatisfaction that no matter how nicely we can arrange the externals of our life, still it won't give us real satisfaction. We think we can get real satisfaction when we attain certain, when we arrange certain things, when we get the paint job on the car, and we get our son married, and we get our husband to finally start taking out the trash, and when all these little things line up and fall into place, then we'll be satisfied. But the truth is, on the one hand, we can never get all those things lined up. The husband may never be willing to take out the trash. I don't know. Or even if he's a good husband and he does, it's still not enough, because then he'll leave the toilet seat up. There's always something, right? There's always something. And then he up and dies and leaves us all alone. So even though so that's the nature of life, that we can't, it's never going to be if we're looking for satisfaction in externals, we're not going to get it. We're not. Yes, still we have to do, but we're not going to get that satisfaction. We get it when we start to dive within. That was Buddha's insight. Luisa.
I'm new to all of this. I've been watching videos on YouTube. I do meditate. But my question is, once obtaining samadhi, and we realize who we really are, and it's of course there is no words to describe it, but after that is life goes on normally, like nothing changes. So how many do we have to obtain or go through samadhi many times to find liberation?
See, Swami Vivekananda, when he was walking in the desert in Western India, he was walking through the desert and he saw in the distance lakes he thought, how interesting, there are lakes of water here in this dry land. So every day he would see those lakes of water, and he thought, there's these luscious water lakes not too far from here. So one day he became very thirsty, thought, I'll go to that lake. And so he walked, and he walked, and he walked, and he couldn't find it. And suddenly he realized, oh, it's a mirage. He had read of mirages, he had heard of mirages, but he had never seen one. He had never experienced it himself. So suddenly he found, oh, I know what this is. This is a mirage. So next day he was walking again, and again he saw the lakes. But he didn't think they were water. He knew they were only mirage. So like that, when we attain realization, yes, the life goes on, and still, but our whole attitude is different. Now we understand it differently, because we no longer identify ourselves with body and mind. We know that our true nature is spirit. Doesn't mean that physical suffering comes to an end. It doesn't necessarily even mean that mental suffering comes to an end, mental pain, but that angst, that they say pain is inevitable, suffering is optional. If we we differentiate between, on the one hand, the pain of life and the suffering, the mental suffering that comes along with it. If we're not so identified with our bodies and minds, then yes, still there may be pain, but we're not mentally suffering so much.
The reaction of the pain.
The reaction to the pain.
The good example of the Buddha's two arrows.
The arrows.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's not on, is it? Oh. Oh, okay, good.
I said the good example of that is Buddha's two arrows. Yeah, the one arrow is the world is throwing miseries and pains to you, and the second one is how you react to it.
Okay, good. So this is, to return to the verse, this dukkha ganjana, this world which is characterized by so much misery. You are the bandhana, the one who breaks that misery. So how does he do that? We can say, on the one hand, by providing, by in a sense, by granting that realization. But have we received that? Maybe we've received a glimpse, maybe not. Dukkha ganjana. So Sri Krishna in the Gita, what does he say? Anityam asukham lokam imam prapya bhajasva mam. Anityam, this ephemeral, doesn't last, it is not eternal. Anityam. Asukham means joyless, means miserable. This kind of dukkham, lokam, in this, having come to this miserable world, imam prapya, having come here, worship me, bhajasva mam, worship me, turn to me, turn to the divine. Sri Rama, that is one thing that an avatar does, provides in himself a path, provides in himself a person to love, to talk with, to develop a relationship with. I remember this senior monk at Belur Mutt who gave me some good inspiration. Just before I joined the monastery, I went to Belur Mutt and I had a few meetings with him, and he told me, Ananda, you have to pray. You're not praying to a picture. You're praying to a being who listens to you. Pray to Sri Ramakrishna. Like that. He spoke with such conviction that I felt that he was speaking not from some idea. He was speaking from his own personal experience. You pray, you're praying to a being. So that is also how Sri Ramakrishna can be seen as destroying the misery, because he has come. We can turn to him, we can pray to him, we can approach him, we can worship him, we can grab a hold of his feet, as we discussed earlier. Bhanjana dukkha ganjana. Because he is karuna ghana, he is a mass of compassion. He is compassion itself. That same ghana there, we had that chid ghana. Here we have karuna ghana. The sort of compassion solidified in a human form is pure compassion. We come to this world dragged by our karma, right? Again? No, I don't want to go. And we're pulled down and back into this world. A soul like Sri Ramakrishna, why does he come? For us. No karma dragging him here. No desires dragging him here except the desire to help lift all. May all be liberated. May all be raised up. Karunaghana, karma kathor. Of tremendous action, tremendous work. Kathor. Kathor has this sense of almost of like bone breaking, doesn't it? What would you say? How would you translate kathor? Harsh. Harsh. Like really, really hard, like the kind of harsh austerity Sri Ramakrishna did. How for 7 years he didn't sleep. So intense was his spiritual practice. That kind of karma kathor, that very tremendous action that he took. Let's see, how does San Francisco translate this? Awesome are thine actions. Well, that's an interpretation. Let's see. That's the nice thing, that we have different ways of tremendous performer of deeds. There's another interpretation. Yes, on the one hand, his spiritual practices, which we could see as his arduous. Yes. On the one hand, during his sadhana period, he did tremendous austerities. Why? You could say because he was just longing to experience the divine in all the ways. But also that tapasya generated tremendous power. That power, which is still being passed on from guru to disciple in the lineage of Sri Ramakrishna, generates tremendous power. So it was done not just for himself, actually, but for humanity. And then afterwards, Swami Vivekananda would say how much he worked for the uplift of people, constantly teaching. Anyone who would come to him, he would teach, he would teach, he would teach. He noted how he was telling the story of Buddha, and how Buddha was on his deathbed and someone came, having traveled many miles to see him and had burning questions. And the disciples didn't want to allow this newcomer to come and see Buddha. But Buddha said, no, the Tathagata has come for this. And he delayed his death and spoke with him for several hours and then let him go. And while Swamiji was telling the story, he said, as an aside almost, I saw this in my own master, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa. And then he went on with the story of Buddha. But to those listening, Sister Nivedita, she caught that in Sri Ramakrishna's case also, he was always ready to teach. And even with his throat cancer, when he couldn't speak, he would still speak. He would still teach. So this is the kind of karma kathur, this incredible action, work that he did for humanity. Why? Because he is karunagana, because he is this infinite compassion. So that prompted him to constantly work. Pranarpana, jagata tarana, krintana kalidor. This beautiful, it's all beautiful poetry. Pranarpana. You have sacrificed your life. Your whole life is a dedication, an offering. Arpana means offering. And prana is life. His whole life is an offering for what purpose? For jagatatarana, for crossing this world, for carrying us across the ocean. By giving thy life, thou hast severed the bonds of this iron age, thou hast saved the world. Krintana koli dor. Dor is a tie, that which ties us to the world. Kali, this Kali Yuga, it should point out, though I think most of us know, but especially among Westerners, we read Kali Yuga and we think Kali Yuga. And it's many people make that mistake. I myself didn't know until I learned a little more Sanskrit and know that there are short vowels and long vowels. And Kali refers to this yuga, this age, which is an age of tremendous difficulty, where there is a lot of there seems to be a lot of wicked people, actually. And the Satya Yuga, the age of truth, they call it the Iron Age, Kali. And it has nothing to do with Ma Kali. Ma Kali is the Divine Mother, and Kali Yuga is not Ma Kali's Yuga. It is the Kali Yuga. That's a common misconception, especially in the West, if we don't know the difference. So Kali Dor, the bonds of this Iron Age. Sri Ramakrishna, mostly when he would talk about Kali Yuga, he would say, this is in this Yuga, our bodies are dependent on food, perhaps to a greater extent than they were in the previous yugas. Hard to know. He said, "Annagata pran." Our life is dependent wholly on food. And let's think about it. All of us eat at least once a day, but most of us probably eat 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 or 5 times a day. We're constantly eating. And look at the birds. Birds are constantly going around eating. Only the snakes, they can eat once in a week or once in a month. If they get a good big animal to swallow, then they can digest that for a month. But for most people, most animals, they have to eat constantly eating. So Kalidor, this yuga when our body consciousness is very strong body consciousness, and this doctrine of yugas, it's very common in the mythologies of all over the world, that there was a time when everything was perfect and then gradually it degenerated and now we're in this state. I think it has real symbolic significance. I'm not sure if it's actually historically significant, that actually there was a time when everything was perfect and now it's not. I do not believe that's the case. The Vedantic sages won't say this. The Vedantic sages, this is the nature of the world and it has always been such. It's characterized by impermanence, characterized by suffering, characterized by moha, by delusion, by incorrect understanding. But we can almost understand that the yugas are running concurrently. We can find people who dwell in the Satya Yuga because they're perfectly truthful and they're dedicated to the divine. They treat all with respect. And there are people clearly who are living in the Kali Yuga who are out to cheat others and all of that nonsense. So, but whatever it may be, we certainly have strong body consciousness. We're dependent on food, and we find ourselves in bondage. So in different ways, Swami Vivekananda is describing how his master breaks our bondage. It breaks the bondage. Khaṇḍana bhava bandhana, mochana agadhushana, bhanjana dukha ganjana, krintana kalidor. Different ways he's bringing again and again this idea of Sri Ramakrishna as one who liberates us, one who frees us, one who breaks the bondage, one who cuts the tie, one who breaks the chain. Sixth verse. Banchana kama kanchana atinindita indriya rag. Okay. Banchana kama kanchana. So one of Sri Ramakrishna's teachings is that what is it that holds us back? What is it? What is it that deludes our minds mostly? It's two. Lust and greed. Lust and greed. He would come back again and again to this. Now, unfortunately, he was always talking with men, and so the record in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna is unfortunately taken down as, he would say, woman and gold, kamani kanchan. But Swami Vivekananda said this should not be used, and he himself never used this term. He always used the term kama kanchana, because Sri Ramakrishna had tremendous respect for all beings, men and women both, and never denigrated women. But unfortunately, it comes across that way in the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna because he's talking with men and he's cautioning them against their tendencies towards lust. So this is the point to remember. But Sri Ramakrishna himself had this tremendous, he had mastered these impulses, the impulse towards acquisition and the impulse towards enjoyment, pure physical enjoyment. And Swami Vivekananda even had tested him. You know that story, how Sri Ramakrishna said he couldn't touch money. Then Narendranath was not one to accept something just because someone said it. He's going to test. He tested his guru many times. He took a coin and hid it under his mattress. Sri Ramakrishna sat down on the mattress. He jumped up as if stung by some kind of insect or scorpion or something that was hiding in the bed. And the others just started searching the bed. What is it? They found the coin. Sri Ramakrishna was pleased. He said, yes, you should test your guru. He was pleased. But this shows the extent of his renunciation was that he couldn't even touch a coin. Though he kept some money in his room. People would bring money sometimes. It would go in a little box. Then if some of his young disciples would come, he would say, take some money from the box for your boat fare home or for your carriage fare home so that they wouldn't have to walk all the way back home at night, that kind of thing. Banchana kama kanchana atinindita indriyag. Atinindita, ever blamed, you can say, ever condemned, indriyarag, attachment to the senses. Well, you know, sometimes if we misunderstand it, we can say Sri Ramakrishna was a killjoy. You know, all sense enjoyment is all condemned. You should only drink the nectar of the flowers, and even enjoying a good meal, well, that's terrible sense enjoyment. It's taking you away from God. But look at Sri Ramakrishna himself loved certain kinds of food. No, he loved jalebis. He loved sweets. And jalebi is a typical Indian sweet, Bengali, but it's also they also have them in China and other parts of Asia. Delicious fried pretzel kind of thing, which is made of some kind of dal, right? ground dal, and then it is deep fried until it turns a golden brown, and then it's soaked in sugar syrup. And I never liked jalebis until I had them fresh, because it's completely different fresh. When you actually get them right out of the pot, it's just next level. Fantastic. I agree. They're very difficult to resist. But here Sri Ramakrishna's Indriya is Atin Indriya Rag. He is bandhana. He has given up all these things. Well, in Sri Ramakrishna's case, of course, he was trying to keep his mind down through enjoyment of certain of these tastes. But we look at Swami Vivekananda. He loved to cook for his disciples or for his brothers, and he wouldn't necessarily have to eat it, but he loved to cook for them and see them enjoy the meal. And he himself could definitely enjoy a good meal or a good smoke of a good cigar. Nowadays he wouldn't do it probably, because now we know how unhealthy it is. But ice cream, Ridgely Manor, I often tell this, how in Ridgely Manor he would get up from the table to go have a smoke, and Betty Leggett, to keep him at the table, would say, Swamiji, I believe there is to be ice cream. And he would stop and would come back to the chair and sit back down with the smile of a boy of 16 on his face, ready to have the ice cream. So he also loved the ice cream. How do you explain that then? There's that poem, is it William Blake? He who binds to himself a joy doth the winged life destroy. But he who kisses the joy as it flies lives in eternity's sunrise. Do you know this poem? He who binds to himself a joy does the winged life destroy. If we try to hold on to some pleasant experience here, we see that pleasure and pain follow each other like waves, like the pendulum of the clock. We get some good experience, we have some bad experience. They come and they go. If we get a good experience and we try to hold on to it, then we're in bondage. We're stuck. We're caught. But he who kisses the joy as it flies, the joy comes and we kiss it as it flies off, lives in eternity's sunrise. The eternity is always here, that eternal reality. It's as if the sun is ever rising for one who lives who is able to just, yes, experience the joy of eating an ice cream, why not? But know that actually the true joy is the joy of the infinite. And this pleasant sensation on my tongue is giving me some pleasure. It reminds me, I think it must have reminded Swami Vivekananda of the infinite joy that is his own true being, that is the joy of the divine. So when everything is colored by that consciousness, then yes, you can enjoy ice cream too. And know that it's just the play of the divine, and it's giving us that joy, kissing that joy as it flies, because he knows it won't last. And one bowl would be enough. He won't say, okay, give me another bowl, give me 3 bowls, give me 4 bowls. But the first bowl is good, the 4th bowl, not so good. But still, it is no doubt that we see that so much of the suffering in this world, so much of the problems of life are caused by this hankering for wealth and hankering for physical pleasure, particularly for sex, and especially for illicit, gaining it illicitly. The whole world is suffering from that. How many people suffering? How many marriages broken? All because of that. So it's a tremendous force, and we have to face it. And if we're serious about spiritual life, then we have to we walk the razor's edge, and we have to be very careful. And not that Sri Ramakrishna says everyone should be monks. For monks, there's one kind of fasting, and for householders, another kind of fasting. But for both, we have to be careful. We have to be very careful. So this was Sri Ramakrishna. He had that tremendous renunciation. As an example, Tyagishwara, He Naravara, Deha Pade Anurag. Here's the one time in this hymn where Swamiji actually begs his master for something. And we also ask for something. What are we asking for? Only for anurag, attachment, love for pade, you. Deha, give us to pade, your feet. Anurag, attachment, love, devotion. Grant us devotion. Hey Naravara, oh supreme man, oh, Naravara, the best of human beings. Tyagishvara, the Lord of renouncers, you can say. Sri Ramakrishna, one day apparently he said, and this is recorded by Swami Adbhutananda, Latu Maharaj, I am the king of the sannyasins. I'm also the king of the bhaktas, of the devotees. So he is the king of renouncers and the king of the non-renouncers also. Tyagishvara, he Naravara, deha pade anurag. Grant us love for you. This was the prayer that Sri Ramakrishna taught us again and again. What do we pray for? Pray for love. If we get love, then we don't need anything else. Deha pade anurag. Okay, 7th verse. Nirbhaya. Are we done with 6th verse? Let's see what how does San Francisco translate this? Shunning lust and gold and sense joy ever condemned, thou art the greatest of those who have renounced the world. O man supreme, grant us devotion at thy feet. All right. Number 7. Nirabhaya, gata sangshaya, dridha nishchaya, manashavan. All right. Nirabhaya, fearless. He's describing Sri Ramakrishna as utterly fearless. And gata sangshaya, all doubts have gone. We already touched on this. That doubt, I guess it was last night we talked about doubt. How doubt doesn't go. Sri Ramakrishna himself would say, doubts do not completely disappear until we have direct experience, until we have direct realization. Once I have seen the ocean myself, I don't doubt its existence. But until then, I may have some doubt. Does it really exist? I heard about it before the days of video and all that. There are apparently people who still doubt that astronauts went to the moon. They think it was all done in a Hollywood studio. Because they didn't go themselves. They didn't know. They don't say, how can you go to the moon? So it's an interesting question. Until we experience directly, some doubt may come. And that's natural. We shouldn't feel bad about that. But in the Sri Ramakrishna's case, gata sangshaya, completely free from doubt. And moreover, he is one who can help us set our doubts at rest. That's why we talked last night about that beautiful line in the ācaṇḍālāpratihatarayo Stotram, where Swamiji describes his master as Sangshaya Rakshasa Nasha Mahastram. All the avatars, like Sri Krishna and Sri Rama, had to kill the asuras, right? They had to kill the Rakshasas. There's many stories of how the different demons and demonesses were killed by them in the forest, and of course Ravana was a Rakshasa, you could say, himself. And these all had to be killed by them. Well, what demon did Sri Ramakrishna kill? The demon of Sangshaya. Sangshaya Rakshasa. Sangshaya is doubt, Rakshasa. The Sangshaya Rakshasa is this monster of doubt. He is the Nasha Mahastram, the great weapon to destroy that demon of doubt. When we look at his life and his documented spiritual experiences, not one or two, but so many of them, hundreds of them, dozens of them are recounted in this book, the biography, Sri Ramakrishna, the Great Master. How he could grant spiritual experience by a touch to others. Gradually our doubt goes. That doubt which destroys our spiritual life. Because if we doubt that there is any higher reality, if we doubt the truth of our own divinity, why should we strive to realize it? Why should I meditate if there is nothing to meditate on? So he has got the Sangshaya, and he also takes away our doubts. And Nirbhaya, completely fearless. Upanishad says, as long as there is two, there is fear. When I feel that something is separate from me, I may have fear. But when I'm established in oneness, then that fear completely goes. Dridha nishchaya manasavan. His mind is completely firm in, it's put here in this translation, fearless art thou and free from all doubts, thy mind adamantine in its certainty. Another translation, your mind is unwavering in resolve. We find in this hymn both descriptions of Sri Ramakrishna in his transcendental aspect, we can say, as Chid Ghanakai, as Karuna Ghana, and also in places describing how he was when he lived on earth, like Bhava Sagara, or here, Dridha Nishchaya Manasavan, how his perfectly, completely, his mind, complete certitude, established in complete certitude. And then this next line is so touching. Nishkarana bhakata sharana taji jati kulaman. Nishkarana means without, karana is cause. Nishkarana, without any cause. Motiveless. Bhakata sharana. You are the refuge for the devotees. The refuge. This is, in the path of devotion, we seek refuge in God, refuge in the divine. And nishkarana, without any motive, without any discrimination, you provide a refuge in yourself. How is it? A haven for no reason of all who adore thee. And then, Taji Jati Kula Man. Taji Jati Kula Man. Those who have Taji, renouncing, giving up. Jati Kula Man. Pride of caste and family. Pride of birth and caste. Now this is interesting because this is subject to two interpretations also. One is that this is describing Sri Ramakrishna. He has given up all pride of birth and caste. He was born in a Brahmin family, which in those days, and even today still, it's considered a noble birth, and the Brahmins are considered, they're called to be the spiritual leaders, and they are also known sometimes to be very proud of that. They're born in a high family and they have that pride may come. And Sri Ramakrishna was determined to root out that pride. How did he do it? You know the story. It's kind of shocking. Even we wouldn't want to do that. And he, in those days, being a Brahmin by birth, he cleaned the toilet with his hair. His hair had grown into long jata, you can say the locks, the long matted locks, dreadlocks. And he went to the toilet, not anybody's toilet, the toilet of the sweeper of the temple. The temple sweeper himself is untouchable. To mix with him means to lose your caste. And he went at night, because the man would never have permitted it. He would have felt it would have brought terrible, it would have been a terrible omen for him. He went at night and wiped the toilet, the latrine, with his own hair to remove any vestige of pride in his birth. How amazing. So that's one interpretation, that this Taji Jati Kulaman describes himself. So this translation, you have renounced all pride of birth and caste, and without any motive are a refuge for all your devotees. The other interpretation is that actually he doesn't look at our caste or birth or any of that. He has haven for no reason of all who adore thee, thou carest naught for their caste, their lineage, or honor or shame. Right, yes. Sacred is sacred. Sacred is the sacred thread of course, and he was a sannyasin. He was initiated into sannyasa by Totapuri. So though he didn't wear garwa, but he was a monk. So monks, in the ceremony of sannyasa, the candidates for sannyasa, they remove their sacred thread. And in our Ramakrishna order, we have people, brahmacharans of many different backgrounds, and certainly not many who are not coming from Brahmin family, but they're all given the sacred thread at the time of the brahmacharya diksha. And so they all have this sacred thread, and at the time of sannyasa, it is offered into the fire, into the sacred fire as an oblation. So it's removed and swaha, it is given up. So because well, I guess that's one interpretation. Yes, so the sanya. We're all granted the sacred thread. It's a ancient Indian tradition signifying a holy life. To keep the shikha, that tail, as it were, at the little knot of hair at the back of the head, and the sacred thread. It's associated with holiness, and it's a constant reminder. Though the one who wears that thread is constantly reminded of his calling to be upright and pure and noble and truthful, etc., etc. And right, and it's given at the time of the Gayatri initiation, which is a powerful prayer. So all the brahmacharans are given that Gayatri mantra, and they're given the sacred thread. If they weren't already wearing it, then from then on they wear it. And for someone like me, it was a privilege to experience that. But it was also, for me, it was a little bit like a good riddance because I received it only at age 35 or something. So it was, I didn't. But for those who've been wearing it from their boyhood, from the age 10 or something, it's become so much a part of their life that to give it up is really something, that I'm giving it up. I'm no longer a Brahmin. I cannot claim the pride of being a Brahmin because I've given that up. I don't have that symbol anymore. Of course, then they get the pride of being a Swami, and that's also dangerous. Very, very dangerous. So that's why you shouldn't give us too much respect, because then it goes to our heads and we become intolerable.
I went through the initiation. So two angles. Like you said, holiness is one angle, but there's another very important angle. The student and the learning and the brahmachari angle also. So probably that's why as a brahmachari you give it, because you are supposed to study and learn.
Yes.
And that's why you get the upabita.
Right.
Thank you.
Right. Thank you. I don't know what they do. They may do it also. I know that in the ancient times, I think the girls received the sacred thread, and there should be no reason why they don't. They keep their hair long, but right before sannyasa, they shave the head, leaving the tail. It's actually a beautiful ceremony where the guru, the sannyasa guru, cuts that hair. Very symbolic, that actually each candidate for sannyasa comes to the sannyasa guru, and he or she, depending on if it's the Sarda Mutt or Ramakrishna Mutt, takes scissors and cuts it, and then gives it back to the brahmacharini, and they take it to the fire, and then all together, once all the shikhas are cut, then swaha also goes into the fire, the shikha. So, but this cutting of the shikha, it's this idea of the guru, by his grace, cutting our bonds and releasing us. So whatever it may be, I'm fully in favor of girls also receiving the yagnopavita, the sacred thread. Why not? And I think probably in ancient times it was done, and then it got lost, and patriarchy took over and all of that nonsense. So where were we? Yes, Tyaji Jati Kulaman. This is how Prabhupada Isha would translate this line. Perfect, whom lust could not taint, nor passion nor gold draw near. O Master of all who renounce, fill our hearts full of love for thee. Thou hast finished with fear and with doubt, standing firm in the vision of God, refuge to all who have cast fame, fortune, and friends away. Without question, thou shelterest us. So that means without question, that means that nishkarana, without any question, without any condition, you provide, you shelter us. You are our refuge, which we'll discuss more tomorrow, because tomorrow we're taking up the third hymn of Swamiji, Om Hrīṃ ṛtam, in which that idea is expressed again and again, 4 times. So here we have this idea. On the one hand, Sri Ramakrishna himself has given up all pride of birth and caste and all that stuff. And on the other hand, he is the refuge of those who have given up those. So does that mean that if we still have some lingering pride of birth, and that he won't, he'll say, nope. But he's nishkarana, bhakta sharana. So he's a motiveless ocean of mercy who provides in himself the refuge for all of us, for all the devotees. So that's our model, to give up our pride. And we're all striving to do that. Sri Ramakrishna used to say, if you have to have pride, be proud that you're a devotee of God. Don't be proud of your wealth or your learning or your birth or all those things. Be proud that you're a devotee of God. That's a more healthy pride. Afterwards, even that can go. But we turn it towards the Lord. All right, do we have time for the number 8? I think we have time. So again, beautiful poetry. Sampada tava shri pada bhava gosh pada vari jatai. Sampada, it means our treasure. Sampada is a treasure. But see the rhyming. It's Sampada tava shri pada bhava gosh pada. 3 times pada pada pada. Sampada, our treasure, is tava shri pada, your holy feet. Your blessed feet are our treasure. Our only treasure is actually your feet. The treasures that we lay up on earth will rust and decay. So lay up your treasure in heaven. And where your treasure is, there your mind shall be, says Jesus. So this is the same idea, that our true treasure is, let us make the Lord our true treasure. Let us make the divine our true treasure. That is where we, and this beautiful teaching of Jesus, where your treasure is, there your mind shall be, there your heart shall be. If a miser knows he has several gold bars hidden in the basement of his house, or buried in the backyard of his house, he's always thinking of that. He's, my treasure is there in the yard. If I need to, I'll go dig it up and bring it out. So like that, our treasure is the Lord's feet. Then our mind will be there, because we know that is our true treasure. Let us enshrine those feet in our heart. And doing that, what happens? How amazing. This world, which seems like an ocean, which seems like an uncrossable ocean, it becomes like Ghosh Padavari. Ghosh Padavari is a measure of water. How much water? The water that fills the hoof print of a cow. Goshpada is the cow's foot, as it were. The cow, which is also considered a holy animal. And when in the rainy season, there's a lot of mud, and the cows walk through the mud, and then the sun comes out and it all dries up, and you have these impressions in the mud. And then a light rain comes, and those impressions get filled with water. That's Goshpadavari, the water that fills the hoof print of a cow that walked through the clay. And so this world, which seems an immense ocean of suffering and difficulty, uncrossable, that ocean gets shrunk just to a little puddle. We can easily step across it. It's nothing. It's just a little puddle. That's what happens when we make our treasure your holy feet. Then this bhava, this world becomes, the ocean of this world becomes like Goshpadavari. Jathai. Premarpana. Again, this term of arpana, this offering. You are an offering of love. Premarpana. Samadarashana. This is another important idea. Premarpana. Prema, not just love, but this intense, this highest love. Your whole life is an offering of love. Samadarashana, we translate it literally as same-sighted. No? Darshana, to see. So seeing, sighted. Sama, same-sighted. What does it mean? We look with the same eye upon a different. We don't reject, and we don't especially praise or long for someone. We have that same sightedness. We know that the divine resides in all beings. So Sri Ramakrishna is Samadarshana, but we are also called to be Samadarshana. And I often think of one Swami, one dear Swami, Damodarananda. Perhaps some of you might have heard of him or might have even seen him. You have seen him, yes. He was short and full of joy. And he was South Indian. He was for many years in charge of our center in Fiji, a small island in the Pacific. And he had retired and was living for some time at Belur Mutt. When I was there, he was there. And he would stand after the evening prayer. He would stand outside in the courtyard, and many brahmacharans and monks would stand there for a few minutes before going off for meditation. They would stand and maybe have a little chit-chat. And with him, it wasn't just chit-chat. It was always some kind of holy conversation. He would encourage us in meditation or all those things, but very affectionately. And we never felt. He was a very senior monk, initiated by Swami Vivekananda. He had had the blessings of Ramana Maharshi. We felt like he had some illumination. We always felt that. He had this joy, and he would stand there and he would swing his chadar, his uttariya. It was sort of, folded up, and he would swing it like that to drive away the mosquitoes which were kissing our feet. He would do that. He would stand there and he would talk about, let us meditate on Sri Ramakrishna sitting in our heart and feel the joy of, like that, he would talk. But in a kind of intimacy that ordinarily a senior monk like that, we felt they don't usually talk to us so intimately, so friendly, as if we are one of him. We just felt like he's our close friend, as it were. Though ordinarily in the monastic order, the brahmacharans, they're really kind of on the bottom of the totem pole. And there is a kind of totem pole. And the senior monks, they're treated with great reverence. And the brahmacharans, we don't notice them too much. So this was beautiful to see. And then one day, I saw him visit with our revered President Maharaj at that time, Swami Ranganathanandaji. And he had been to Australia. And he had taken some photographs of the inauguration of the temple in Australia, which was why he had gone. So he was showing these pictures to President Maharaj. So when he approached President Maharaj, he saluted him. But then I found he's talking with the president the same way he talks with us brahmacharans after the arati. Same intimate, friendly, as if actually there's no difference. See, he's a senior monk, but President Maharaj is considered to be the representative of Sri Ramakrishna, the president of the whole order. He's the most revered monk of our order. but he's also talking with him in the same intimate, familiar kind of a way. And then I saw, that was a lesson to me. This is Samadarshana. He's behaving with the president of the order the same way he behaves with us brahmacharans, us lowly brahmacharans, same way. So that's my example of Samadarshana. Jaga jana dukha jai. This is, it closes with this rejoice. It's a kind of rejoicing. This hymn is also a hymn of rejoicing. And then it comes at the end of this which we'll do after lunch. We'll do the last part. But this, it comes to this rejoicing. The suffering of the people of the world is dissipating. It's going, jai. It's disappearing. The dark night is over and the sun is now rising because you have come, the destroyer of our misery. You who are the very offering of love, the one who sees all of us the same. You don't make any distinction between high or low. In your eyes, we are all equally your children who are equally fit to receive your grace, and we equally have an equal claim on our inheritance, which is to attain true devotion and true renunciation and true spiritual realization. So this is the first 8 verses of this beautiful hymn, which we have gone through, and we will now break for lunch. And after that, we'll come back, those of you who still have the energy and the time, and cover the last verses, it won't take another hour. I think we can finish it in half an hour or 45 minutes or something like that, because it's 4 verses, but it's actually 3 verses, and it's short and simple. So, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanam Astu.